From the mud to the rise, yeah, we built it on the grind. Trench talk, real talk, leave the fake ones behind. We don't fold, we don't break, every move we define. It's the code from the trenches where the real ones align.
Yo, welcome to the savage saga of the Mickey Cobras, one of Chicago's most feared street gangs. From bloody shootouts to wild revenge missions, these streets ran red with Cobra venom. Strap in, cause we're diving deep into the craziest, deadliest wars that made the Mickey Cobras infamous. Born in the 1950s as the Egyptian Cobras, these guys grew from Hyde Park hustlers to South Side legends. Their name changed, but their game stayed the same: money, muscle, murder, all in the name of the Cobra. Let's kick it off with the assassination of Mickey Cogwell, the OG who gave the gang its name. February 25th, 1977, 3:45 a.m. Mickey's walking home in Auburn Gresham. Out of nowhere, an assassin creeps up, lets off a 9mm, and drops Mickey in the street. 2 more shots to the back, just to make sure. Rumor was Jeff Ford, leader of the rival Black P. Stones, ordered the hit cause Mickey wouldn't roll with the L. Rockins. The Cobras went savage, breaking away and renaming themselves in Mickey's honor. The Dearborn Homes on Chicago's South Side were notorious for violence and gang warfare. By the 1990s, the Mickey Cobras and the Gangster Disciples had carved the complex into hostile territories. The Cobras dominated the southern buildings, while the Disciples held the northern ones. The central courtyards, once intended for families and children, had become battlegrounds, echoing with gunfire and the constant threat of death. In this charged atmosphere, an 18-year-old woman, known in the neighborhood for her independence, received a chilling warning from a Mickey Cobra prince, a high-ranking gang member. Don't step foot on 27th Street, or you won't live to tell it. This wasn't just idle talk. The 27th Street building was firmly under Gangster Disciple control, while the 29th Street building was Mickey Cobra's turf. Crossing these invisible lines meant risking your life. Despite the threat, the young woman decided to visit a friend in the rival building. As she left a store at 2910 Dearborn Street, she was spotted by Mickey Cobra members. 2 gang members, one identified as a prince, stalked her as she walked toward a water fountain. Suddenly, one pulled a small silver gun and fired, hitting her in the leg. As she screamed and tried to crawl away, the shooter stood over her and fired several more shots, executing her in cold blood. Witnesses described the attack as merciless. The shooters fled, leaving her lifeless on the pavement. The motive was clear. She was accused of breaking the code by crossing into enemy territory and allegedly acting as a spy or interfering in gang relationships. The shooters, both affiliated with the Mickey Cobras, were later apprehended, tried, and sentenced to life in prison. Their conviction sent a brutal message to the community. Break the code, pay the price. The killing of the young woman became a symbol of the chaos that ruled Dearborn Homes during this era. Residents lived in fear, children avoided the courtyards, and the violence left scars, both physical and psychological, on the entire community. This expanded account draws from court documents, gang history, and reports on the notorious violence that plagued Dearborn Homes, illustrating the harsh reality of life and death within Chicago's public housing projects. Chicago's South Side was already a powder keg, but the murder of Leonard La Capone Anderson, a rising rapper and Black disciple, sent shockwaves through the city. La Capone, just 17, was leaving a recording studio near 70th and Stony Island when he was ambushed in a narrow alley. The shooter, later identified as a member of the Mickey Cobras, crept up and fired multiple shots, striking La Capone in the thigh and lower back. Despite being rushed to the hospital, he died from his wounds. The motive went beyond personal beef. It was a calculated strike in an ongoing war between the Mickey Cobras and the Black Disciples. The shooter was eventually convicted and sentenced to 60 years in prison. For the gangs, this was more than a hit. It was a public warning. Cross the Cobras, and you're next. Old Town, once a neighborhood of bustling shops and families, became a war zone as the Mickey Cobras and Gangster Disciples clashed. Tyshawn Blanton, just 20, was standing outside a corner store in broad daylight when a car rolled up. Without warning, a shooter jumped out and unleashed 6 shots, dropping Tyshawn on the sidewalk. Police investigations revealed this was a revenge killing. The Gangster Disciples had crossed into Cobra territory after one of their own was murdered by a Mickey Cobra. The cycle of retaliation turned the streets into a battlefield, with neighbors too scared to leave their homes and gunshots marking the hours of the day. The Robert Taylor homes, infamous for poverty and violence, became the backdrop for a brutal showdown between the Mickey Cobras and Black Disciples. On August 11, 1997, a brawl erupted in a courtyard between rival factions. As fists flew, guns were drawn, and chaos exploded. Brody Trotter and Gerard Thomas, both associated with the Black Disciples, were shot dead at close range. Witnesses described the aftermath, Mickey Cobras celebrating over the bodies, high-fiving and shouting, "Yeah, we got one." The shooters were eventually apprehended and sentenced to life in prison. Yet, the violence didn't end there. Each killing only fueled more bloodshed, as the Cobras maintained their grip on the projects through fear and firepower. In the unforgiving world of Chicago gangs, loyalty is everything. Juwan Gatlin, a known Mickey Cobra, was accused of cooperating with police in a murder investigation, a cardinal sin. The gang's leadership, known as the Don of Dons, ordered his execution to send a message to anyone considering betrayal. On August 7, 1998, Gatlin was cornered in an alley. He was shot 13 to 15 times, his body left riddled with bullets. The sheer brutality of the act made it clear, in the Mickey Cobras, snitching was punishable by death, and mercy was off the table. These stories are just a glimpse into the violent history of the Mickey Cobras and their rivals. Each act of violence was both a personal tragedy and a calculated move in a larger, ongoing war for control over Chicago's streets. The scars left behind still haunt the neighborhoods where these battles raged. Cornell Green wasn't just any Mickey Cobra, he was the gang's number 2, the mastermind behind one of the most lucrative heroin operations on Chicago's South Side. At the peak of his power, Green's empire was pulling in an estimated $100,000 a week, flooding the streets with poison that fueled addiction and violence alike. Green's operation was a well-oiled machine. Supply chains stretched from the Midwest to the East Coast. Distribution networks infiltrated neighborhoods from Hyde Park to Englewood. Money laundering schemes masked the millions flowing through the gang's hands. But the feds were relentless. In 2001, after years of surveillance, wiretaps, and undercover operations, federal agents finally cracked the case wide open. Cornell Green and key members of his crew were arrested on charges ranging from drug trafficking to conspiracy and racketeering. The trial was a spectacle. Witnesses testified about the brutal enforcement tactics used to maintain control. Evidence showed how the heroin trade funded the gang's violent campaigns against rivals. Ultimately, Green and his top lieutenants were sentenced to decades behind bars, a major blow to the Mickey Cobras' operations. But the Cobras' grip on the South Side wasn't just about drugs, it was built on blood, bullets, and big money. Every arrest, every prison sentence only ignited more violence. The gang's hierarchy shifted, younger and more ruthless leaders rose up, and the war for control intensified. From Hyde Park to Old Town, the Mickey Cobras transformed Chicago into a war zone. Every street corner was a battlefield. Every block echoed with gunfire. Every shot fired was a message about respect, revenge, and survival. The Mickey Cobras left behind a savage legacy that still haunts Chicago's streets today. Their story is one of power struggles, brutal enforcement, and a relentless pursuit of dominance. The streets remember the Cobras, not just as a gang, but as a force that shaped the city's darkest chapters. This is the brutal truth of the Mickey Cobras, a gang forged in violence, sustained by crime, and remembered for the chaos they unleashed.